Hey everybody, this is Dave from Brick 101, and this video is going to be talking about a video game that I made. So I am in a game design program at DePaul University pursuing an MFA, and I am just wrapping up my first year in that program. And one of my classes this past quarter was on how to design games through the lens of 2D platforming games. 2D platformers, also being called jumpers, also being called Mario games. And this was a weird quarter to be in school. The start of the quarter kind of coincided with stay-at-home orders for COVID-19, and the end of the quarter ended with protests around police brutality, Black Lives Matter. So it's been weird to be in school and try to complete assignments. Anyway, the big project for the platformer class was to build a game that kind of shows what you learned about game design broadly and about 2D platformers specifically. And a lot of people in my class used Unity to build something, but I haven't really been able to spend a lot of time in Unity yet. Just the projects we've worked on have been in other tool sets. I've spent more time in Unreal. Anyway, so I decided, and with my professor's permission, that instead I would use Mario Maker as my development tool. Mario Maker is a game making tool. You might think that it's just a level making tool or a fun level editor game thing, but it is in fact a robust ecosystem that allows you to make games and game experiences. Not to say that it's not a walled garden controlled by Nintendo, and there's problems with that, but it is something that I've put a lot of time and effort into learning and understanding, and so it was something that I was better able to execute my ideas in quickly for the purposes of this class than trying to learn a whole new system at a time when it was hard to learn anything because of the state of the world. So anyway, I made a platforming game that's about platforming games, and I made it in Mario Maker. So if you want to play this game, the best way to do that is to get Super Mario Maker 2, and then go to Course World and go to my Maker profile. My Maker ID is down there. It is 6K7R8270H. So if you go to my Maker profile, you will see my smiling face with a frog hat, and you will also see to the right my Super World. So this is a new feature that was added to Super Mario Maker 2 relatively recently, the ability to take levels that you have created and uploaded and string them together in a world map a la Super Mario World or other Mario 2D platformers. This is my first Super World I've really done. It only consists of 4 levels, but I'm really proud of it. I think it's a fun experience. It is has a fun ramp in difficulty if you like difficulty, and it's definitely in conversation about, you know, what we do in platformers and what different aspects mean. Anyway, that's all kind of highfalutin talk, but there's going to be a lot of that in this video, so if you're not a highfalutin like in person, you can leave. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play through this game with limited commentary first, and then play through it again with a lot of commentary. If you want to play through this yourself and form your own opinions about it before hearing my thoughts, this would be the time to stop the video, go play Frenemies forever, and then come back. So, let's play this game. Super Brick 101 Worlds. Unfortunately, you can't title your super worlds. They're just called whatever your maker name is, but hey, it works. New game. So, here's a cute little map. We are Toadette, of course, because Toadette is the best. and Toadette's in the water over here. What's really fun about Super Worlds is that as more people play them, you can see them show up as these ninjas. You can always turn that off if you don't want to see them, but kind of represents where people got, how many people have played through the different levels. It's really one of the only ways you can kind of get feedback on how the design of your world is compared to your level design, which you can get a lot more granular feedback on, because you can see how many people completed each level in the world. So anyway, let's go play level 1. But I'm also just having fun going back and forth on the map and watching the ninjas get out of my way. Frenemies forever, 1-1. So, frenemies. So, video games have a long history of enemies, which are computer-controlled characters that harm you and that you harm. Would be generally how I describe how you typically interact with enemies in a video game. But I'm not super interested in just that kind of simple demarcation. So as I was working on this, I came across the idea of a frenemy, something that is sometimes your friend and sometimes your enemy. I'm not the first person to do anything like that in a video game, but it's rare that I've seen a game that specifically focuses on that dynamic of something that sometimes wants to hurt you, sometimes wants to help you, and vice versa. So this is our first enemy here, frenemy rather. I purposely died there just so I could talk to you, but now I'll actually play. So this lava bubble in a clown car. Now its friendliness, it's not readily apparent at this point, but it's also not super threatening because it's just bouncing and it's in our way, but it's not necessarily killing us. It might just kind of want to be our friend. Like, it's kind of following us all around. That's really cute. But if I go and try to get this 50 coin over here, depending on how fast I do that, it's possible for the lava bubble to like block you from getting out almost, and then it gets really tricky to kind of get past it. And then if I was to go over here to try and finish the level, I'll find that I can't actually get to the end. There's this bomb sitting there, and if I try to touch it, which many people have, sorry, I die, and I have to start over. This level it's a really short level. I wanted to really focus on a single concept and execute it really quickly, so I made the whole level in about an hour. So I like the idea of a 60-second level that's built and designed in 60 minutes. It's a really fun little challenge I gave to myself, and I used that philosophy for most of the levels in this game. They might not be perfectly polished, but they, explore an idea and force the player to move kind of quickly and be thoughtful. So anyway, yeah, you use your frenemy to blow up that area, and then you can get to the goal here. And I like how Toadette walks down here and falls in that little hole. But even the lava bubble illuminating parts of the level also makes it an interesting frenemy dynamic, right? Because if it helps you see a little better different parts of the level while also being a dangerous fireball. Oh, now we get to do a Toad House. So that's one of the cool things now that there's world maps, is you can add these little Toad Houses. Oh yeah, live count. So I have 8 lives. I thought I should have, because I got some 1-ups. So yeah, you start with 8 lives. I lost a couple, but I gained a couple there, I guess. And these Toad Houses are fun ways. So this is like straight out of Super Mario Brothers 3. This brings back so many memories. Let's see if I can get a flower. Yes, come on. So I got 3 lives. So those are nice little things. You don't have a lot of control over them. You can just choose which type of toad house it is and kind of where to put it. So I put it in a very traditional toad house position, which is kind of as a side branch that's off of the main line of how to get from level to level here, right? Going from level to level, it's just kind of like that. But yeah, so the toad house is a little side branch. Pretty common toad house placement. All right, let's play level 2. So last level was underwater, so that's why I put it in the lake. This one's more of a forest situation. Oh, I love this level. So, oh, the bouncy ball rain, it's so good. Oh, I died from the wiggler. So there's a lot going on. This is a stage, whereas the last stage was very linear and meant to direct the player pretty clearly as to what their goal was. This level is more open and chaotic, intentionally. You know, people might think this is bad level design here, right? To have all of these RNG elements like bouncy balls, and up here I've got random tracks that you can still see from where all the coins were that shower down at the beginning. If I hit those lemmies, then they're released. There's a lot of kind of weird, not like cleanly designed, stripped to its barest elements, Jonathan Blow style stuff going on here. But you know, this is also a valid approach to making a level that's about your lack of control in the face of you know, the elements, as it were. The water's going up and down. You can't really do anything about that. Sometimes it helps, sometimes it doesn't, depending on what you're trying to do at the moment. These bouncy balls make moving precisely very difficult. So it's actually easier to move around a little bit more in water because you can avoid them. The wiggler can be a help to you, but it can also just kill you sometimes. The lemmies are the source of it, but they're also the easiest way to get the 50 coin if you want to get that. So one of the original concepts when I was starting to work on a platformer for this class was about being a klutz. So I am someone who is not super coordinated when it comes to moving my real physical body in the real physical world. I drop my keys, my phone a lot. I'm not super precise. I wasn't good at sports, you know, stuff like that. And so I wanted to make a platformer game that felt like what it feels like to have my body, which is that even when you try to do something right, you mess it up sometimes. And how do you deal with that in the world when the world is not designed for people who are klutzes, right? There's a lot of precise things you might need to do with your body, and that can make it hard to live. So this level is definitely about being a klutz, right? So it's also about being overstimulated, right? This coin and bouncy ball rain makes it hard to even focus on what's going on, and you might get distracted and do the wrong thing. And all of those are real lived experiences I brought to the design, which I love how they came out in this level. Like, I just love being pushed around by these bouncy balls. It's such a delightful feeling because it's also rare that there's objects in a Mario game that are like these bouncy balls, right? The bouncy ball is not lethal, but it is, you know, not helpful necessarily. You can use them to get to your goal, but they can equally hinder you. So they are, you know, ideal frenemies in that they are fun to interact with and sometimes help you and sometimes hurt you. You know, the wiggler and the clown car, I've used wigglers as frenemies for a long time in my level designs. If you've watched my previous Mario Maker videos, you'll know that I have a long, delightful history with wigglers. Oh, I'm running out of lives. I wasn't even paying attention. That'd be hilarious if I ran out of lives in my own video game, right? And I'm purposely not winning the level. Here, we'll win the level. And we'll come back and talk about this more later. But anyway, that was level 2. I love it. It might be my favorite part of this whole game. Other parts of this game are maybe more elegantly designed, but that one is just so fun. Such a riot. I just love being tossed around gently by bouncy ball rain. Oh, the baseball one. Baseball, a thing I wasn't good at because I was a klutz, but I'm actually pretty good at this baseball. I caught like all 10 yesterday when I first tried this. I have video to prove it. Oop, not doing so well right now though. Come on. Woo! Come on, I can do it. Oh, so I only get one up for that. But hey, better than none one-ups. None-ups. Anyway, so this level, like on the map, maybe the water should extend further out over here to better represent how this level is half in water, but it's fine. And then this level, I put up this little incline here. You don't have a lot of control over, making height differences in your maps, but since this is a snow level, as you'll see, I wanted to, use the snow level indicator here, as well as putting it up higher, so there's a rationale for why there's a snow level in what's otherwise a forest. I don't know, those things matter to me when I'm playing a game, and so even though this is a small game, I want it to feel cohesive, coherent. All right, so we've got another clown car, but this time it's a fire clown car, so it spits fireballs, and it's holding an enemy that spits fireballs, and we've got our Bob-omb friends back from level 1 again, except this time there's more of them, and we can interact with them in a lot of different ways. So rather than just one at the end of the level that we need to blow up, the Bob-ombs are entirely optional to interact with in this level, and they can be used to speed it up, because again, we have a tight time limit on this level. 1, because that makes sense, because it's short, but also 2, it's just a nice way of keeping the pressure on the player. If this was, 500 seconds that you had for the level, you would not feel the pressure, right? Players could be much more leisurely and thoughtful here, and probably die less if they had more time, right? It's very easy to die in all of these levels. Well, the first one, I guess, is, it's not easy to die. It's possible to die, and people die about once when they play it, and then they get it on their second try, because it has about a 50% clear rate. These have I think this is maybe a 10%, so people are dying on average 9 times for every 1 time they complete the level successfully. And that definitely went into my thinking about the life count for this game. I feel like 8 lives for 4 short levels is pretty generous, especially given that there's a bunch of 50 coins, some toad houses and whatnot, but it's not necessarily... Again, I don't want it to be too few where it will be really hard for people to complete, but I do want there to be some pressure. This is the kind of thing that you can't really tell if you did the right number without having lots of playtesting and seeing different people play through the whole thing. So if you're watching this video, record your own playthrough of this game and show it to me, because I'd love to see how other people play through this game and how well they do, how many lives they have left. That's really interesting information for me as a designer that I don't have access to. Right now, school is not in person, so I can't just take my Switch in and have people play this in class. I have to rely on people on the internet, whether they're my schoolmates or, just internet friends. Anyway, I really like this curvy path here going to the castle. Just watching the animation of Toadette walk along it is very satisfying to me. Yeah, every time I play on this map, I just end up doing this a lot. And what else was I gonna say here? I don't know. It's fun. I played around with like where to put, let the background trees fill in to make this look like a forest, whereas to put specific trees like that one down in the bottom left there with the two bobbing apples. I'm wondering if maybe I should have had another one here. This does feel a little empty, but I don't know. That's the way it's like this is because how the mountains work is that you can only go onto or come off of a mountain by going up a ladder, which has to be where you go down. Otherwise, I would have like had Toadette come off the right side of that mountain and not have to use all this space down here for that. But it ends up being like a nice little walk that she does, so not the end of the world. All right, let's finish this game with level 1-4 of Frenemies Forever. Now, I'm already implying that there will be more worlds of Frenemies Forever by using the 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4 indicator that implies the existence of a 2, 1, etc. But we'll see if I decide to continue this game after this. So, a lot going on already in this level. So we've got rising lava. Toadette is swimming even though she's not underwater because this is the night castle, which is kind of anti-gravity. And now she's at a place where she has to kill herself or wait for time to run out. So she did not successfully save her frenemy from the lava, and so she can't progress. So that was important to me, that in basically the whole game, you have to work with your frenemies to some extent to beat it. So in the first level, you need to use the lava bubble to light the bob-omb at the end. The second level, the Wiggler and the Lemmies are not required to get to the end. It is possible to just kind of like jump carefully out of the water and get up, but it's a little bit easier if you collaborate. And then the last level, you need to work with that piranha plant and the clown car to get to the end. So you need it here, and so if you let it die in the lava, right, you let your friend die, your helper friend. Yes, they're also your enemy, but they're also your friend. And you cannot progress past this point without them. You might think you could go through that pipe since it's only half closed, but even a half closed pipe is full closed. So you need piranha plant. And so this level, level 4, different than the previous ones in that it's got a much longer time frame. And also just because you have to work with multiple frenemies. And they reappear in the opposite order that they appear in the game, previous levels. So Piranha Plant was level 3, so it's the first of 3 challenges here. And if you're feeling adventurous, you can try to get that 50 coin by getting the Piranha Plant to shoot any of those ice blocks will get you access. But of course, the longer you stay with your frenemy, the more risk that your frenemy will kill you. I don't think there's a way for you to really kill any of your frenemies. I guess Lemmies are killable, but again, it's unlikely you would interact with them long enough to fully destroy one since they need multiple hits. It's possible for the environment to kill your frenemies. They certainly will here. So now we're repeating the second level in a different way, right? So now we've again got the pressure of the rising lava. We've got angrier wigglers, but they can die. And we've got, again, kind of the random coins. I didn't have them raining down here, but that's something I could have done if I wanted to mirror it more specifically. Okay, and you'll also may have noticed, oh, let me just die so you see it. I've got plenty of lives. There was a checkpoint. So each of these sections, if you successfully get past the section, you don't have to redo it. And I limited it to 3 sections because, again, I don't want this to be a game about having to do long, arduous things perfectly. It is a small Mario, small Toadette only game, right? There's no mushroom or other power-ups, so you do have to avoid all damage, you know, like Super Meat Boy or other platformers where there's any hit will kill you, but having the checkpoints to break everything up into small sections in this level makes that more tolerable. Like, I'm not a fan of small Mario only levels that are super long because that just becomes tedious to me. But short sections, short bursts, I feel is okay. So this is a little rest area where you can get the checkpoint and then get some coins. Undo Dog flies by in the background. There's a secret one-up over here, which if you pay attention to symmetry, and I love the effect that the lava does eventually come up and destroy those wigglers below you. All right, final section. So we're back to our old friendly lava bubble friend from the beginning. And as we learned in the opening of this level, we'll need them to complete the level. But oh no, they've fallen into the lava. The greatest frenemy of all, Yoshi. But our lava bubble friend survived the lava. This happened accidentally when I was testing this level one time. Like that the lava bubble, oh shoot, I'm gonna die. Nope. The lava bubble fell behind in the lava and I thought it was done for. And then as I was preparing to kill myself while facing Yoshi, the lava bubble emerged from below and I was so excited to see my friend, and I love that dynamic, right? Of the beginning of this level taught you can't progress if you don't bring your frenemy with. But then this part teaches you actually some frenemies can survive in the lava because that's a lava bubble, right? The piranha plant died and then the clown car fell because there was no rider. It's not that the clown car died. So here the clown car can continue going because the lava bubble is immune to lava. Anyway, this was the Mecha Yoshi fight. So Yoshi is a giant mecha. And then you successfully destroy all the evil Yoshi eggs. As soon as I thought of Yoshi as the boss, I knew that that was the 100% correct thing to do, because Mario and Yoshi's relationship is super messed up. Like Yoshi in Yoshi's Island, you know, can't win the level if Mario isn't with Yoshi, but Mario will abandon Yoshi at the drop of a hat in order to complete a jump if Yoshi is in their way. So, right, that's a really... Yoshi is basically Mario's parent and, you know, cared for baby Mario growing up, but then Mario will just abandon Yoshi's left and right and go through a whole species of them. So, you know, Yoshi is, I think, a really great character to explore what it means, the player's relationship to Yoshi. Because Yoshi's always happy to see you despite you abusing it, versus enemies who, you know, are always mad at you despite you not necessarily having initiated hostilities. So here, Yoshi, you know, maybe trying to finally enact revenge upon Mario and the player for all their sins against Yoshi kind. Anyway, so that's the game. Thank you for watching and listening to me talk about it. If you enjoyed that and want to hear me talk even more about it, then stay tuned, because that's what I'm going to do now. Let me go back a few steps before I got to Frenemies. So, Frenemies Forever 1.1 I uploaded a while ago, back at the beginning of May. But this underwater volleyball prototype was really where I started thinking about this game using Mario Maker. So my initial concept for the game was about being a klutz and dropping things. But the first kind of mechanic I wanted to focus on was the feeling of when there's like a partially deflated balloon and you just kind of tap it gently to keep it up in the air. And the goal you have is just to keep it up in the air and not have it hit the ground. But it's hard to predict exactly where the balloon will go, because based on where you hit it and air currents, it might kind of fly off to the side. And you know, that's just a fun game I played as a kid that I think lots of people have interacted with the balloon that way. And I thought that was like a nice way to slowly introduce the concept of like not perfect control, all right? So that you'd touch a balloon and couldn't always perfectly predict where it would go, and you know, you might feel clumsy. It's a clumsy interaction. So this was my attempt to recreate that in Super Mario Maker. So Toadette has got a shellmet on, and she can hit the spiny, which is in ball form because we're underwater. And there's lots of ways that it definitely captures that feel, right? Like the slow descent of the ball gives you time and kind of just begs you to hit it again and get it a little bit higher. And how long can we keep it up, right? There's a lot of just fun in this basic interaction. But there's another clumsy aspect, which is that if Toadette hits it, then she's punished and has to go back and put a shellmet on again if she wants to return to interacting with it and not die. And that was not really what I was going for. That sense of danger that the thing you were interacting with could turn on you. You know, something that was once your friend could become your enemy. Obviously, I ended up that being the very theme I developed, but right, that was here unintentional. The intended design was the floaty balloon feel, not the sense of precariousness, danger. So as a designer, while I had discovered something unintentional here that was interesting in its own right, this specific thing I was trying to explore turned out to not be what I wanted. And there's a lot of reasons why this wasn't great. So I tested out a lot of objects that you can kind of bump with a shellmet, and this was one of the best in terms of it kind of, one, looking like a big red balloon, even though it's spiky, but then two, that, you know, there's many different ways you can hit it and give it slightly different arcs depending on how fast you're moving and how it's moving, right? That's a very different hit than that, or it feels different. But then there were these other unintended aspects that, you know, definitely distracted from that. So we already talked about the shellmet issue, but there's a limited palette of what this can interact with. Oh no! All right. So this challenge over here with the note block, let me get back to it. But you know, so this first challenge is just like hit the balloon up a bunch, right? So if you hit the thing once, which you have to do, so I designed this area so you can't get up here without interacting with it. If you try to do it without a shellmet, you'll die. So it forces you to learn, put on a shellmet to interact with that. So it's like a well-designed little area for teaching the player that. And you have to hit it multiple times between it touching the ground to hit a P-switch. But then there's this aspect of, well, when you hit the P-switch, then you have to leave the area while the P-switch is going. And that was not at all what I wanted. It was just looking at the objects a spike ball could interact with, that could, you know, bar or unlock progress. The P-switch was really the only one. And rather than using, I could have had an elaborate mechanism here so that as soon as you hit the P-switch, all of these coins here disappeared. So that, like, first the bricks would turn into coins, and then like a POW block would be triggered and that wall of coins would disappear. But you know, that is a lot of workaround just to make something that's supposed to be simple functional. You know, and that's one of the downsides of using Mario Maker as a development platform as opposed to Unity, where you can build something from scratch. But I have access to a well-designed interconnected series of items in Mario Maker that I deeply understand, so that makes it more powerful for me right now and for other people who have put their time into Mario Maker. So anyway, this challenge over here is more about precision and dropping the balloon precisely onto that note block because Toadette cannot get in there. But it also showcases a weird aspect of the spike ball interaction. There's a couple here, so right, it fell onto the ground and now I can't really get it back up because I can't, maybe I can sneak under there. And I could try all day to get under there, but it's not that interesting. Which is why this area is so open, because it's supposed to be, if you lose it, you lose it. And now I'm trying to abuse spawning rules to make it reappear higher, but whatever, I got it. So anyway, the other thing that I don't like about this is that if we hit this onto the note block, that should be good. Bloop. When it bounces, it now stays up at this position, right? So while normally, while we're hitting it, there's the danger of it going all the way to the bottom. After it hits the note block, it doesn't keep bouncing the same way. So that is like an unintended effect here for me, right? And what I want to do probably makes sense and is interesting in Mario Maker for a lot of reasons, but didn't jive with my design. So that was another thing that annoyed me. I also realized, oh, if I have multiple of these challenges linked up, I want to prevent the player sometimes from bringing a spike ball to the next area. So I developed this little wall here. So this cliff with an overhang really prevents the player from even trying to bring the spike ball forward, right? It's hard to even get it past that overhang under it. And I specifically made it like that because if the player was able to get the spike ball stuck here, then they might not be able to get past. It might literally block their progress. Even though this is only one wide here, I left it open here so the spike ball could fall if it got there. Anyway, and then this part I was just like, all right, so if we did a whole bunch of evolutions and expansions, what are different ideas we could explore with this mechanic of Toadette hits a spike ball with a Shelmet? So this, rather than having one big spike ball, you have many, many small spike balls. It's kind of the, 10 horse-sized ducks or 100 duck-sized horses question. And there's something fun and freeing about, after the precision of the early one, just like hitting these spike balls with relative abandon, and that is a successful tactic. Also, like just seeing the spike balls push each other out of the way coming out of the pipe is a satisfying thing. But ultimately, oh, I'm about to die. Oh, that's so ironic. I wasn't paying attention to the timer. Oh, right at the end. Ultimately, I just wasn't super into all these experiments. But this really shows you how I start designing a Mario level. Or just a level once I have basic mechanics, is that I try to find interesting interactions and then variations on those interactions and play around with them and see what I enjoy and what might be well suited to the feel I'm going for. Right? A lot of game design talk centers around the idea of fun, and fun is a amorphous concept that means different things to different people in different contexts. So I like to talk more about like what is the feel I am going for. So platformers are games about manipulating objects in space, and for me, I wanted a clumsy feel of the player character interacting with another object. This was another iteration of that same kind of idea, similar to what we just saw in the underwater volleyball. The gravity is different here, so before, Toadette was swimming, whereas now she's just walking and jumping, but the chain chomp still has underwater physics. That's a specific thing to the nighttime theme in what is this? The airship nighttime theme in Mario Maker 2. Here we've got a call back to the P switches on the ceiling from earlier. So we're using bumpers to prevent Toadette from touching them. So yeah, this is like another way I could have explored different objects with different bump abilities and gravities after that initial kind of volleyball thing. But it's just so convoluted. Just like, there's some level of fun to pushing around an object with your head here that I like. But, right, to do it, I can't just, as Toadette, jump into that chain jump. I need to have a shellnet if I want to change its direct trajectory. I can't fly up into it to do that. And so because of that, I need to make sure that the player always has access to a shellnet and a propeller mushroom. And that leads to kind of like convoluted, gross looking things like this over here. I can't hide this in my code. It's just right there for everybody to see. And like, you know, there's a certain level of satisfaction to what's going on in this level. It's not what I wanted, but it's not what I wanted. If that makes sense. And this was just a little challenge here at the end that you hit it while the P switch is still on, you get coins as opposed to breaking bricks. So anyway, that's like an affordance of the P switch that I was like, oh, I could play with that if these levels are generally going to be about bumping things into P switches, but it just wasn't what I was looking for. So anyway, that's how I got to Frenemies Forever. So let's go back and look at actual more of the design process of how I built it. So we're going to do that by looking at our Super Mario Maker 2 videos and going back in time. So I love the feature of the Switch that lets you capture video of the last 30 seconds of gameplay. Oh, this is not relevant. Because it's so often right after something cool has happened that I'm like, oh, I want a video of that. Whereas other systems you have to start capturing before sometimes. So anyway, this is when I originally I had tested out various things that Toadette could bump her head against, right? So we just looked at the volleyball and chomp prototypes, but this other one I had was the lava bubble in the clown car, because that is also bouncy. And I realized it was bouncy in a very different way, right? The clown car will follow you forever. It's not something you have to bump to keep up. It'll just kind of go towards you wherever you are. But this was just the basic first outline of the level concept, because I was like, all right, well, what could we put in a clown car that then would be required? So that you have to keep it with you, similar to how you had to keep the volleyball or the chain chomp with you. And this was just a lot more interesting to interact with. There was just a lot going on here, right? So, kind of at this early part of the level, right, you have to lead it up, and then at the latter part, you have to lead it down. So, let me see. And once I then put this underwater, right, I knew it was going to be underwater, I just didn't do it when I was first roughing out the thing. Here's where I'm putting it underwater. And I'm also making this area more narrow because that increases, whoop. So when I put it underwater, I still had the night theme on, and so the fact that then it lit up parts of the thing just was so much more interesting than everything that was going on in those other levels, right? It's this dynamic level of interaction. And we were talking about enemy design that week in class. So, right, I was thinking about the ways that player characters relate to enemies in platforming games typically. And as I was doing this, I was just, kind of taken aback by all the interesting affordances of this kind of frenemy, right? Where you have to get this lava bubble over to the bob-omb to finish the level. So therefore, it is your friend. but then it can also kill you because it's a lava bubble. But then it's also, there's safe ways to interact with it. You can bounce it from below, right? And this comes back to the volleyball concept where you could bounce it from below, fine, but when you bounce it from above, it was not fine. But there wasn't an immediate consequence. You just lost your Shelma and it was awkward, whereas here you just die if you touch the bad part. So it reinforces the frenemy-ness of it much better with death. And death is a really important tool that video games use to teach players about how objects interact, right? If something is bad to touch as the player, you learn very quickly to avoid it, or you can't progress. If something is necessary to progress, right? Like here, this fire lighting the bomb, then you will learn that it needs to interact that way, or you won't progress. Video games definitely, can embody the player's learning in really interesting ways, right? That the players, you can just kind of gate a level by what the player knows about how objects interact, right? So you have to know that this fire enemy, that one, the bomb can blow up those blocks, and that the fire enemy can light the bomb on fire, but that Toadette touching the bomb on her own would be bad, right? And that's a lot of information. But luckily, right, using Mario to do this, people have played lots of Mario games, or lots of people have played Mario games. So they're familiar with the affordances of lava bubbles and bob-ombs, specifically from Mario. And then also, these are designed in such a way that it is, there are clear real-world counterparts, right? Touching fire in the real world is bad, so you avoid it. Bombs explode in the real world, and that is, an abstraction of a bomb there, but when a bomb explodes, stuff around it gets destroyed. So, right, those things are real in the real world, and the way these objects, which are just math, look in the game reflects those real world properties. So anyway, frenemies. So here, I did the initial rough out, and then I realized I wanted to force the player to interact with their frenemy a lot more in the opening, and it to be an obstacle to their movement. So putting it above them and making it a narrow passage forces the player to interact with it in a very specific way. So this is where literally the architecture of the level is shaping how the player frenemy encounter works. So versus this open space where Toadette could easily go around her frenemy here, putting in this much narrow passage makes it so that Toadette will have to interact with the frenemy there. And push it upwards. And so then I started adding these semi-solid platforms. So these are basically like soft checkpoints. So if the player pushes the frenemy above one of those semi-solid platforms as they're moving up, it will not go back down because it cannot go through. Well, Toadette could go up and down with impunity because she can go into the one-wide passage on the side of those one-wide platforms. You can also see I was just also playing around with aesthetics at this point, so adding the coral and stuff like that. So yeah, and these were not full captures of obviously the entire building and creative process. I did do a Twitch stream where I showed the initial stages of designing level 4 for this game. So if you are interested in that, I'll put a link in the description. But these were like interesting moments to me as I was building. So you can see I'm starting to think about coin placement now. So coins for me are a way to guide the player in a... Sometimes they can be very heavy-handed. I like to be a little bit lighter. This level is pretty... it's pretty obvious with its coin placements, right? They definitely guide the player along the main path and specifically get them to go one way or another. The big coin, right? Oh, don't delete that. The big coin up in the corner as something to tempt the player as a secret, but it's clearly not the main path because it's big and shiny as opposed to small and shiny. Again, a lot of this is already established within Mario, so I'm using that language here to communicate with players, but also players will just naturally gravitate towards pickups once they learn that they will disappear. And you know, that goes back to Pac-Man and other games with picking up circles, and you could get into the theory of Baba and Kiki about shapes that are round versus shapes that are spiky and how people feel about them. But anyway, this was just to show off coin placements. Oh, and this moment was when I was playing around with how hard should it be for the player to get the lava bubble down. Because, right, if the first part of the level is about up, it's in my way, get out of my way, get out of my way. And then the upper part is about, like, why is it following me? What's going on? Then this later part is about, oh, I need it. Follow me. Why won't you move faster? Come after me, right? So the player's feeling about the frenemy is supposed to change based on the level geometry here and their understanding. So here I had made it too narrow, so literally the lava bubble could not get through. So I just play tested that, and then I opened this up. That's all I was showing there. So this was like, yeah, the first version of having that coin there, and then the lava bubble kind of trapping you in the corner a little bit. But it wasn't exactly what I wanted. There was still a lot of room to get around the lava bubble, so I made it a tighter passage, as you can see here. And I later did it with slopes so that there's even more chance that your frenemy will pursue you into the secret area. Yeah, that was kind of the concept there, right? And that's an optional way to learn about how you and the frenemy interact if you go for the 50 coin. Let's see what this one is about. So this is about carefully guiding. Maybe this was just the first time I successfully kind of got it to the end and was showing that off. And I'm running out of time here. So then trying to get it to go over to blow up the bomb is not necessarily clear the best way to do that. Like, it's actually better to just stand in place and let it do its thing once you get down there. But I don't know that I signaled that super well to the player in this iteration. So I changed this bottom area here a little bit in the final version. Let's see if... Because I wanted it to be something that, you know, is not easy to do. You definitely have to do it deliberately, but also that's not super hard. Yeah, and this is me testing, because my initial impulse when I got down there was to bump it into the bomb, as opposed to just that. So here, this is annoying that you have to wait for the ticker tape to come up. It forces you to get a 1-up, which is nice to definitely get a 1-up, but waiting is boring. This kind of waiting is motivated though, waiting for it to come down because I'm trying to reach a goal, and something is making progress even if the player character is standing still, whereas waiting for the ticker tape, which is really outside of my control, versus the frenemy, which is kind of in my control, right? It's not quite totally out of my control. Just interesting frenemy dynamics. I really like this, if you can't tell. Oh, and so here I had redesigned it so that you could get down to the ticker tape more easily, not having to wait for it. Oh, but I had that, I don't know why I had that, oh, that was to prevent Toadette from swimming up into the bob-omb. So I put that one-way platform to prevent her from doing that. But in doing that, then I prevented her from easily escaping at the end. So sometimes when you design one thing for one reason, it causes a problem for another reason. And that's why rigorous playtesting in QA is important, right? To discover those unintended consequences, right? That's a really crappy way to die right there. So that's why I took out that one-way platform. Oh, and then this was just working on the thumbnail art. So, you know, good thumbnail art can really help a level get attention. Level 1-1 of Frenemies Forever has gotten some good attention, and that I give a large part of that to a good thumbnail. I think that definitely helps as it starts to spread. But here, you couldn't really see the beauty of this giant pixel art I made of your frenemy, because I still had it in night mode, and also maybe this pixel art was too big. So then this is after I redesigned it a little bit, and then I put it in daytime, and I was still messing around with how the pipes and whatnot would go for the green part. Tried a bunch of different ways. Then I went to this one. Which one did I end up with? Yeah, and testing out different... So yeah, that's... whenever you're working on thumbnail art, it's really important to just do that save feature a lot, because that's how it's ultimately going to look. So however good or bad it looks in the level, you know, testing out right here, I think I'm changing like question marks to donuts, and right, those other blocks to... Right, so first I tested out question blocks, like does that look good for the mouth? And then I thought of donut blocks, changed those out, and then I look at it again. So that's all that's really going on here. And the donut blocks definitely better match the bridges here. And even watching as that sweep happens, as the thumbnail is updating, or the smile here, right, like that looks better. So I feel like that's a really important tactic when you're doing pixel art for thumbnails in Mario Maker, is just always checking that zoomed out tiny view rather than just focusing on what you can see in the level. Oh yeah, and then I decided I should put Toadette with her frenemy. So I was playing around with how do I make Toadette look. These bumpers were really nice for her big mushroom head and her pigtails. And I was just really proud of how this looked, which I think is why I captured this video. Oh yeah, and then you of course, oh right, so here I'm also repositioning the screen a bunch to figure out exactly where I want the cutoff to be, because you only really need to design what's going to be in the thumbnail. And so if you spend a lot of time on pixel art that's outside of just that one screen that it captures in the thumbnail, that's a waste. So you can see down below, right, Toadette just has the beginning of a shirt, but if I had done it right there, you would have seen more of that, so I moved it up. And so that's a part of doing the pixel art. Here I was also experimenting with different ways to do Toadette's skin. Lots of different things there. Is this the final one? Maybe. I don't know. Oh no, I changed her mouth to a bob-omb. Because again, it probably looked better in the thumbnail. Oh, and then from there, I made her head much bigger, because again, I'm also looking at Toadette right here in the window. If you see her, she's in that bumper up at the top, right? So she was a constant reference point for me. You could see earlier when I was focusing on the clown car, I had a clown car and a lava bubble there, so I had a reference. You know, using reference material is really helpful in doing art, whether that's pixel art or other art. So that's what I did there. Alright, so this is big head. Oh, and this was just like the first, this was my upload run. I'm curious what we'll see here. So right, we've got those semi-solids as platform checkpoints. Here they start to become obstacles though, because you're trying to get it down, though I made it a lot wider, but it still gets stuck on that one. And I know exactly what's happening, so I can kind of rush ahead there. Oh, and yeah, here was just again looking at one of the initial prototypes. Guess I saved this as a separate one, shorter one. This was, yeah, just looking at those, bumping. There's the thumbnail, and there was the upload. So anyway, geez, I've been talking for an hour.